Hi, welcome to Aging with Amy, where we help families to thrive, not just survive, the aging journey. This is our very first episode of Aging with Amy. I'm Amy Pierce. I'm a registered nurse and an aging life care professional and the co-founder of Coastal Care Partners. I'm so glad you're here. This podcast is for real talk about aging. Aging is hard. It's hard for the older adult and it's hard for the family. We are focusing this podcast on adult children who are trying to help their aging parents, but really it's for anyone who wants to understand how to age well with dignity and support. Today's episode is extra special because I'm joined by my husband and business partner, Scott. We're sharing the story about how we got into the world of aging care and why it means so much to us.
Yep, thanks, Amy. And I'm happy to be here, and this has been truly a labor of love for us. I'm so excited that Amy has started down this road. I'm so proud of what she's doing every day to advancing the subject of understanding care needs for older adults. And this journey has been very personal for both of us, and we're excited to share what we feel called us to this work.
So let's start today, Scott, by talking about your personal story with your parents, because really that's what led us to create Coastal Care Partners.
It definitely did, and it really caught me 100% off guard, as I'm sure it does most adult children. When my parents finally got to the point where they needed care, it was about 9 years ago. I had moved away to a separate city. I was up in Atlanta, Georgia, and they were down in Savannah, Georgia. I got a call one day. My 82-year-old dad was caring for my 80-year-old mom. So I got the call from my dad. He said, "Hey, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to the hospital." And so I drop everything I'm doing. I drive 5 hours from Atlanta to Savannah. I get to the hospital late in the afternoon, and my father's cardiologist finds me, and he says, "It's nothing immediately urgent, but it is going to be something like congestive heart failure. So it's something that we're going to have to manage ongoing, and it will impact your father's health." And so my dad was in the hospital for a few more days, and when he got discharged, he was at home, and Amy met me over at their house. And when I walk in, at this point, my mom was already on a pretty good decline. She was 80 years old. She was in a wheelchair. She had early dementia. She had a Parkinson's tremor. And my dad was effectively caring for both of them. And now my dad is in bed on oxygen. And Amy, that's when it really hit me like, oh my gosh, this changes the whole paradigm. My dad can't care for themselves anymore, and now I have to get involved, but I live 300 miles away.
And so at the same time that Scott was going through this with his family, I was seeing similar things with other families in my professional work as a hospice admissions nurse. So as a hospice admissions nurse, I was the one who would go in and sit with the family, whether they were at home or if they were in hospital or if they were in a nursing home, and talk to them about hospice. And they would have had a conversation with their physician where the physician felt that they were hospice appropriate, and I would be called in to come talk to them about what all that means. And what I saw over and over again were families struggling to deal with health issues. Some were eligible for hospice, some weren't. What are we going to do? Especially when you have adult children that live out of state like Scott was, or out of town like Scott was with his family. How are we going to navigate all of this? And so Scott and I started talking about how there just wasn't any great resource where we lived that we could turn to at that time to say, hey, can you help us navigate all of this?
And that was late 2016. I moved back to Savannah from Atlanta to be closer to my parents. And we just kept talking. There should be a service. There should be someone you can turn to, someone you can hire. And we looked at the traditional healthcare model that's all insurance based. And there really isn't a segment of the traditional healthcare model that focuses on helping families handle the aging process of loved ones. During this year and a half that we were formulating our plan, we went through even more personally. My father, ultimately both my parents, we moved them into an assisted living community, and then over the next year, they both declined. My dad ultimately passed away in early 2018, And we then also my mom had to move into a memory care unit because her dementia became much more intense. And so we went through the whole process of losing a parent, going through hospice. My dad, fortunately for him and for us, it was a quick passing. It was a 2-week stint in hospice and not a longer stint. But hospice was fantastic. It guided our family through the process. We knew what was going on. But if I didn't have Amy and I didn't have somebody that was a medical professional helping guide me through this process with my parents, I would have been lost. So that, I think, ultimately is what led both of us to this eureka moment of there should be someone you can hire to help you with this.
There's a lot of different companies out there doing in-home care, which is where you have a caregiver that you can hire, either a private company or a large company, a small company. You can hire caregivers to come in and sit with mom and dad.
And it's an
important piece of the puzzle. But what we saw is while there were plenty of those companies where we live, there wasn't this next level strategy maker that I like to call an aging life care professional, or as at Coastal Care Partners, we call it a nurse care manager. The concept is to have a registered nurse who is experienced caring for older adults to come into a family and just say, you know what, I'm going to take mom and dad to all of their appointments. I'm going to communicate with all the different physicians and specialists. An 85-year-old today can have 5, 10, 15 different specialists. Think about it. You have your primary care physician, you have a cardiologist, a pulmonologist,
Therapist,
orthopedic,
every ologist
retina
there is.
surgeries, the list goes on and on. It becomes complicated to deal with all of these different physicians and understand what all of them want you to do, all the medications, all the instructions. And we'll get into this in other episodes, but dementia, that is
A huge piece of it.
cognitive decline for older adults is just growing and growing every day.
And if
the
the kids, like I was, 5 hours away, you don't know how are your parents going to get to their appointments with their physicians. Are those valuable appointments? Is anything actually being accomplished when you have an 80-year-old person with dementia trying to communicate with a physician on what to do and what their care plan is? And for me, and Amy joked with me about this, when we started talking about this concept, it hit me. I'm a big sports fan. I love all sports, and especially football. And so I said, so what we're really talking about here is we're establishing the quarterback of the healthcare team,
And
right?
that's the perfect analogy.
It's the person, if football at all, the quarterback is the person that's on the field, that's directing all the players, telling which player to go where, making sure they're in the right place, and then executing the plays. And that's exactly what a nurse care manager does.
That's right. And you know how we started it, we live in a retirement community. And we started with just me as the very first nurse. We put an ad into a local magazine.
I'm more of a business person. I'm not a marketing person, but I felt pretty proud of myself. I built this fantastic ad for a magazine, and it was great. It showed all of the value statements. It showed all of the benefits. It was really detailed on exactly what our nurse care management position and functionality was. And we put it in the magazines, and crickets. I mean, nothing. And it was about a month later, after running 2 or 3 ads and not getting any traction on it, Amy came home and said, all right, Scott, the ads are too complicated. It's too much information. She said, let's make it just say, have a nurse take you to your appointments. So I changed it out. My pride was a little bit dented, but it was okay. I changed the ad out and I said, have a nurse manage your care and have a nurse take you to your appointments. And as soon as that ad hit, we had 3 people call us in the next 5 days. The business just took off from there.
Yeah, it did, and we're very proud of that. Along the way, at first, we were just doing the nurse care management piece at first, and I was the first nurse, like I said. When I started to get a caseload of around 10 client families that I was managing, I told Scott, I was like, this is starting to get a lot of different plates that I'm spinning, and so it's time to bring on the next nurse, which is what we did. We brought on our next wonderful nurse care management, and that's how we started to grow Coastal Care Partners. Along the way, we did see the huge need for in-home care, the wonderful caregivers that help every day with activities of daily living. That's showering, helping with meal prep, help with light chores around the house. We saw how important that is, and we were referring in a lot of the different companies where we live, and it was challenging to not be the one that was managing those companies because they were different companies. And we decided we ought to really branch into doing the home care side of it ourselves for more continuity of care between the nurse and the in-home caregiver. So we got into the in-home care side of things. We got licensed by the state, and that side of our company just exploded.
Yeah, and it was obviously much needed. We knew we wanted to run our services differently because what we saw out there in the market just wasn't getting it done. And so as that part of our business grew, the nurse care management portion of the business grew, and then the in-home caregivers portion of the business grew, and then we run right smack into the pandemic. And that was an eye-opener for the entire world. And what we saw during that, if you remember, is physicians told their patients, don't come into the office. You can't come in. You can't spread the virus. And so you had all these people at home who needed to be seen by these physicians. And so we started being called by physicians that knew we were managing their patients. And they would say, Amy, you're managing Mrs. Smith. I really need to see her, but she's 96 years old and very frail. She can't come into my office for her own safety. She can't handle technology because everybody was turning to telehealth. A 96-year-old most likely is not going to be able to manage any technology. They didn't grow up in that same era that we did. And so managing FaceTime or Zoom or Skype at that time just wasn't going to happen. So we came up with the idea, let a nurse go in and manage that, that in-home telehealth visit. So the doctor can still stay remote, but a nurse is at the bedside, and the other benefits with that are great too.
There's so many. Nurses can implement orders at the bedside. We can do blood draws, we can do IVs, we can do so many things in that scenario. So that was vital signs. That was something that really just took off here in our community as well. At Coastal Care Partners, we really are very focused on relationships. It's very personal. We don't just create a care plan. It's not transactional. It's relationship building. We actually walk with people and we create, I like to say, a strategy success plan. And we'll help older adults through all of this complex health issues. The nursing side of it, to me, obviously I'm a nurse, is near and dear to my heart. We're going to talk about a lot of different personal stories. And so I'm very excited about all the different things that we're going to be talking about. So this is our why. Aging is complicated, but you don't have to navigate it alone. Every single week, we're going to talk about real stories, practical advice, and honest conversations that we need to have. Sometimes just acknowledging that it's hard is important. And I see you and I know that, what you're going through is complicated, and we're going to talk about strategies about how we can help and do it together.
And we appreciate everybody's time, and I would say, obviously I'm biased, I'm married to her, but Nurse Amy is 100% committed to this from her heart and her soul, and so, I think this will be a great resource for people.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.